Recording in progress.
Like I said in the earlier video, this is Act 2, Scene 2. This is the balcony scene, and by far the most well-recognized moment. Well, maybe not. Maybe the very ending is recognized too, but such a poignant moment in this play. It's just, even if people haven't read the play, they probably know about this scene. Um, this is the moment where Romeo doesn't leave the party. Remember, he has to go find his center out, and Juliet is his center. And Juliet is going to talk at his window, and he's going to overhear, and then end up answering her. So this is a very famous scene, and for good reason. It is beautiful. There's so much here. You could read it over and over and over again, and probably see something new every time. It's really quite a perfect scene. When you read it, I want you to take your time. And even reading it out loud, the words, there's so much beauty in the language. There's musicality to it. For those of you who like music, there's almost a lyrical sense in the beauty of what they're saying. There's a scholar, he was born in the 1800s, probably a scholar in the early 1900s, named Harold Goddard. So he's a Shakespeare scholar. Can tuck that one away if you're going to go be an English student at college. But a scholar whose work I really appreciate. And he says this about Romeo and Juliet. He says, not only do they utter poetry, they are poetry. There you go. And boys, you might be going, ugh, but give it its due. Give it some opportunity. This is a scene. This is a play. Shakespeare's work has lasted for hundreds and hundreds of years, and for good reason. It's really quite magical. Consider the context, right? We got two warring families. They hate each other. They've been fighting for eternity, right? Their families, they see each other in the street, and brawls break out. And the two heirs, the next gen, right, who should be taking up the mantle, picking up the torch of this fight, instead are in love. It's beautiful. What a great context. And Romeo here could truly be killed. Like, he's turning around to go to listen to Juliet talk at her window. He is outside his enemy's home. This is dangerous. In fact, Tybalt, remember, saw him at the party. He is out for blood. This is a dangerous moment. As you read, I want you to look for a couple things. So if you need to jot this at the top, like as you're maybe at the top of your book, jot down some of these things to look for, because I think they're keys that help unlock some meaning that's going on in this particular scene and in the book overall. We've talked about death already. Look for life and death imagery. You're going to see that contrasted all throughout the play. In addition, you're going to see darkness and light. Those are opposites. They're antithetical, right? But you're going to see that in the language. Look for that. Another thing that's really important to look for as you read is images. And this is true of any story. When a writer is using an image, what is that image conveying, or how does that express the idea? I'll give you a couple examples, but I'll certainly do that as we walk through too. So life and death. Juliet says this to Romeo in just a minute. How camest thou hither? Tell me. And wherefore? Wherefore means why. Why? Why did you come here? The orchard walls are high and hard to climb, and the place death, considering who thou art. If my kinsmen find you here, they will kill you. They will murder thee. There's death language. Look for that. Look for dark and light. In just a second, we'll look at these words. It's the cover of Night. When he sees Juliet, he calls her the sun. In addition, he says the stars ask for Juliet's eyes to shine in the sky for them. He calls her a bright angel. So we have this under the cover of Night, rendezvous, if you will, and then he just talks about her as she's bright and an angel and like a star and like the sun. Listen for that Also, listen for word pictures, these images. He sees her up on the balcony or the window, and she rests her head upon her hand, and he says, "Oh, that I were a glove upon that hand, that I might touch her cheek." So, just a great image. There's a zillion of them that we could talk about, but um, look for those. Those are just kind of keys to help unlock some of the scene. So Juliet is in her window and she says this, but soft. No, he says this, sorry. What light through yonder window breaks? It is the east, and Juliet is the sun. So Juliet is showing up at her window. She's arising. Arise, fair sun, and kill the envious moon. So Juliet here is more beautiful than the moon. She's the sun. And he's going to say that the moon is sick. The moon is jealous over her beauty. That you, Juliet, are more beautiful than the moon. So kind of read through that. And he says, "It is my lady. Oh, it is my love. Oh, that she knew that she were." And those images, that light and dark, is going to go all throughout his first speech here. He says, "Two of the fairest stars in all the heaven, having some business, do entreat her eyes to twinkle in their spheres till they return." So these stars are like, "Hey, I gotta go to work, Juliet. Why don't you come and be a sub for me so you can shine so bright in the sky?" The brightness of her cheek would shame those stars. So as you read, kind of be looking for that. And Juliet talks. "Ah, me," she says. And Romeo, she speaks, "So speak again, bright angel, for thou art as glorious as the night being over my head, as a winged messenger of heaven." She's an angel, right? And then this probably most famous line ever, "Oh, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo?" And I remember thinking that meant, where is Romeo? Like she's looking for him. Like, wherefore art thou? That's not at all what she's saying. Wherefore means why. So she's saying, "Oh, Romeo, Romeo, why are you Romeo?" She's in love with her enemy. Why? That's what she's saying. "Deny thy father and refuse thy name. Give up being a Montague. Or if thou wilt not, be but sworn my love, and I'll no longer be a Capulet." So this love, on Juliet's end, she is willing to give up her family for this guy that she just met like last night. Okay. Romeo wonders, should I hear more? Should I keep listening, or should I talk? And hopefully you'll watch this scene. I loaded a great, more of a modern production from Royal Shakespeare Company in Google Classroom for you to watch. And I want to parse this out just a little bit because I think it's really important. And then when you go back and read it, hopefully you'll have some kind of handles to hold on to. Juliet says this, "'Tis but thy name that is my enemy." It's just your name, just Montague, right? That's my enemy. That's an interesting, this is like an ontological question. Is he still the same guy if he's not a Montague? Or is he so tied up in, is his identity so tied with the Montagues that this is going to be an inextricable problem? Like he cannot separate himself from the Montagues. Okay, back to the text. "'Tis but thy name that is my enemy. Thou art thyself, though not a Montague." If you're not a Montague, you're still you. You're still your essence, your core. You're this great guy, and you could just give up your name. Is it going to be that easy? "What is a Montague?" she says. "It isn't a hand or foot or arm or face or any other part belonging to a man." And she says, "Oh, be some other name." So clearly, this is going to be a problem. She says, "Be somebody else. Why is he a Montague?" And she asks the question, what is in a name? And that's a great question to ask. That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. And is that true? Is that true? So you smell a rose and it's beautiful. And a couple days ago when I made these slides, I put down the name of a rose in in different languages. And so, like, you think about rose, it's soft and it's beautiful. I think the root is like a rosa, right? Like it's got this kind of soft, gentle. But in other languages, I don't know if I can, I'll probably slaughter this. I'll probably kill this. So, gul, gulab. Greek is, I don't even know. I did practice this, but I don't remember it. Triantafilo. That's the name of a rose in Greek. Bara. I think that was Japanese. So different names for roses. If we didn't call it a rose, if we called it gulab, would it still smell good? Yes, right? Juliet is saying it's not its name that makes it beautiful. It's the very essence and core of what a rose is. And that's what she's saying. That which we call a rose by any other name, it would smell as sweet. And then she makes the leap to Romeo. So Romeo would. Were he not Romeo called? If he had a different name, he'd still be this wonderful, great guy. He would still retain that dear perfection, which he owns. He's perfect without the name Montague. And then she says, Romeo, doff thy name. She wants him to get rid of it. And she says, and for thy name, which is no part of thee, take all of myself. This is an interesting idea. She's asking him to give up his name. And if you think about in marriage, it's usually the wife that gives up her name, right? And takes on the identity of her husband. I'm Mrs. Brand. Well, I used to be Miss Powers. That was my name for a big chunk of my life. Right up till I got married, I was Ruthie Powers. That was my name. Well, now I am no longer a Powers. That identity, I doffed it, to use Shakespeare's language. I got rid of it. I took on a new identity, Brand, to get married. And she is saying, Romeo, doff thy name. Get rid of it. That's a reversal, right? And if you do that, take all of myself. She doesn't know Romeo's listening. And then Romeo chimes in and he says, I take thee at thy word, call me but love, and I'll be new baptized. I'll have a new name. I'll have a new name, that's what he's saying. Henceforth, I never will be Romeo. And she's taken aback. She doesn't know who is at her window. And he says, by a name, I know not how to tell thee who I am. She says, who is there? Which is such a great question, right? She just said, get rid of your name. And now she's saying, who's there? Well, he doesn't know how to say it because she just told him to get rid of his name. By name, I know not how to tell thee who I am. My name, dear saint, is hateful to myself because it is an enemy to thee. Had I it written, I would tear the word. He'd rip it up. My ears have not drunk 100 words of thy tongue's uttering, yet I know the sound. And then again, aren't you Romeo? And then she adds, a Montague? So she's asking this question, what's his name? He would just be just beautiful, even if he didn't have the name Montague, so he could just give that up. But yet she's the one that is saying, aren't you a Montague? So is it that easy to just shake off who you are, shake off your name? I don't think so. There's so much here. I'm going to skip a bunch of stuff. She says, how camest you here? And tell me, wherefore? Why? Why did you come here? And he says, with love's light wings did I overperch these walls. A Cupid, right? Like I've been empowered by Cupid. But because of love, I was able to conquer these walls, this barrier between us. Stony limits cannot hold out love. And what love can do that dares love attempt, therefore my kinsmen are no stop to me. And she answers, if they see you, they will murder you. So there again, we have this death language. And Romeo, a couple lines down, says, my life were better ended by their hate. It's like, I would rather die, right? Instead of not have your love. Well, this is a bit of foreshadowing, more death language. Another line I'd love to point out If you got your highlighter in your book as we're going along, as you go back and read this, just kind of slow down and take a note about this line. This is about line 82. He says, I am no pilot. Maybe we'll go up a little bit ahead. By love that first did prompt me to inquire. That's how I found your place. She asked, how'd you find me? By love. He's navigated by love. So we go back to that kind of navigation language and how he's on a course, and his course is directed by love. And I'm not saying love's a bad thing, but is he on a course that's going to end up colliding? Question we need to keep in the back of our mind, especially when they keep mentioning the word death. So Romeo says, I am no pilot. I am not somebody who can steer a ship. Yet, wert thou as far as that vast shore washed with the farthest sea, I should adventure for such a merchandise. I don't know how to sail a ship, he says, but if you were that distant shore, I would adventure. I would take that trip. I would navigate that trip. Great navigational language. Let's see, what else do I want to point out here as you read? Juliet is a pretty forward chick. Let me check my notes, make sure I'm not missing something. Yes, okay. So just watch the direction of their relationship. How fast is it going to move? And who's navigating it? Is it her or is it him? She says, Thou knowest the mask of night is on my face, else would have made him blush bepaint my cheek. For that which thou hast heard me speak tonight, I'd be embarrassed if it wasn't nighttime, she says. This is that dark imagery. She says, fain would I dwell on form, fain, deny what I have spoken. Okay, fain just means gladly. Gladly would I dwell on form. Form here would be manners or custom, right? I'm not supposed to just blurt out, I love you, right? That's not how it's done. So she says, gladly I would have done that, but she says, farewell compliment, farewell courtesy, farewell rules, and social manners. She says this, dost thou love me? Do you love me? She just comes right out and says it. Not going to stand on form, not going to stand on social customs and manners. I'm just going to ask, do you love me? I know thou wilt say I, yes, and I will take thy word. Yet, if thou swearest, thou mayest prove false at lovers' perjuries. They say Jove laughs. O gentle Romeo, if thou dost love, pronounce it faithfully. I think she's driving the ship here, not Romeo. Or if thou thinkest I'm too quickly won, she says, or if you think I'm just too easy, right? I'll frown, I'll pretend, I'll protest, I'll act like you're moving too fast. But she says, in truth, fair Montague. She calls him Montague again. What's in a name? Oops, there we go. I'm going to stay on this one, I think. I am too fond. That just means affectionate. I love you. I love you is what she's saying. You might think my behavior is light, but I will prove more true than those that have more cunning to be strange. And strange here just means to hold back or to reserve their feelings. She's not reserving her feelings at all. She is just letting him know how she feels. And she confesses, you overheard me. You heard me talking. You heard me share my love. Therefore, pardon me and not impute this yielding to light love, which the dark night has so discovered. Light love, dark night. Great contrast. Oh man, there's just so much more in this scene. If you need to pause it and kind of read through that section, go right ahead. Not a bad idea. But I'm going to keep going and talk about kind of where the course goes next. Romeo says, Lady, by yonder blessed moon, I vow that tips with silver all these fruit-topped trees. So he's like, I'll swear by the moon. And he just kind of bad-talked the moon a few minutes ago when he called Juliet the sun. But he says, I'll swear by the moon. And she says, oh, don't swear by the moon. Don't do that. She doesn't want that kind of overly dramatic poetic language. Don't swear by that. The moon is inconstant. It monthly changes in its circled orb, lest thy love prove to be like the moon. to be changing, right? You've seen the moon. Sometimes it's full, sometimes it's can use a little crescent. The moon changes. So don't swear by that. I don't want this changeable kind of love. What shall I swear by? And she says, don't swear at all. Or if you will, swear by thy, okay, this is important. Swear by thy gracious self, which is the God of my idolatry, and I'll believe thee. So she says, if you're going to promise, make a promise on yourself. She's known this guy 24 hours, just saying. And she says, you are the God of my idolatry. Now, idolatry, that word just triggers so many things for me, right? Like usually an idol is something that you worship. And if you worship something in the wrong way, outside of the way that you should have an affection for it, it's called a disordered affection. And so here she is putting Romeo in this place. She's elevating him to this place that gets kind of this worship idea, and just a lot of negative connotation with idolatry. I don't know what to do with that other than to consider that it's an error in judgment on her part. If she doesn't keep Romeo in his rightful place and she elevates him to a place of worship, this is going to end in chaos. And then her words kind of match that idea. Just a couple lines down, she says, although I joy in thee, this is line 116, I have no joy in this contract tonight. Why? It's too rash, too unadvised, too sudden. And then here's this great image. It's too much like lightning, which doth cease to be before one can say it lightens. So lightning, again, brightness in the darkness. So you got that contrast. Great image. She says our love is like lightning. It's quick, it's rash, it's sudden, and then it's gone. Lightning is gone just as soon as it flashes. Is that what their love is going to be like? That is her concern. Excellent, excellent image there. Just beautiful Shakespearean language. And is this true? Is their love too quick, too rash, too sudden? And what's wrong with time, right? Just taking some time to explore their relationship, what this is, what they should do about it, how they should talk to their families, how this is going to affect the Capulets, how this is going to affect the Montagues. None of that's being discussed necessarily. And then the nurse is going to come in. She's going to call Juliet, and she's outside of the room. And so Juliet's going to do this kind of hurried, like talking to Romeo and also talking to, I'll be there in a minute, nurse. She's going to do this kind of back and forth language. And Romeo says, oh, blessed, blessed night. I'm afraid being at night, all this is a dream. I feel like this is a dream. Hold on to that. Dreams kind of show up a little bit here in this story. So let's connect that later to another dream language that's going to come up. And Juliet says this, because she's being called by the nurse, and so everything is hurried and quick. And she says, about line 140, I don't know, 3 or so, 3 words to Romeo, and good night indeed. If that thy bent of love be honorable, right? If you really love me, then the purpose marriage, if you want to marry me, again, just met a few hours ago. If you want to marry me, send me word tomorrow by one that I'll procure to come to thee. I will send my nurse to you. That's what she's going to do. And send me word. If you want to marry me, give me the details. So I really think Juliet is kind of driving the ship here. And all my fortunes at thy foot I'll lay, and follow thee, my Lord, throughout the world. She says she'll follow him where he goes. That is interesting. Hold on to that. I will follow thee throughout the world. And that's what love does, right? Love, you leave your family and you cleave to the one that you're married to. And that's what she says she will do. Oy, oy, oy. There's more to read. I'll let you kind of finish that on your own. As you get towards the end, Romeo says, I wish I was a bird. Why? uh, kind of referencing what Juliet said, the lines before, and she says, I would too. I wish you were a bird. Kind of interesting image there. Kind of explore that a little bit. And then she says, yet I would kill thee with too much cherishing. Right? She'd hold him so close she would kill him. Why this death language again? Good night, parting is such sweet sorrow, that I should say good night till it be morrow. If you've never read Romeo and Juliet before, and this is your first time reading the balcony scene, I'm kind of jealous. I'd love to go back and read it again for the first time. It is so beautiful. Take the time to slowly read through it and look for those dark and light imagery, life and death imagery, word pictures like the lightning, the bird, the glove, the rose. Look for those pictures and just try to pause when you see that and think about what they're saying to one another. All right, God bless you. That's it for scene 2. Enjoy reading, and I look forward to talking with you about it in class. And scene 3 coming up. If I can close the video. There we go. See you later.